Sal, the Epstein files fiasco is the scandal that just keeps on giving. We were talking about Steve Bannon's sulfuric acid hot tub last week. How you doing?
Yeah. You know, it's amazing, Jason. I think everybody waits for Fridays now to see me and you on their screen, plus on a Substack. We really get into things. But I hate to say, I mean, Jason, I don't want to toot, our own horn, but we were ahead of the curve on this. We would, Bannon, Epstein, and now there's explosive stuff in there. And someone was arrested yesterday in another country. So those who say there's no there, trying to cover for two incompetent buffoons, one that's still in the FBI and one that, thank God, he left. Yet the bottom line here is, Jason, there's a lot of there. And it just because you don't get prosecuted in the United States, because as you know, there's prosecutorial decision could go, oh, we don't want to prosecute here, but we want to prosecute this guy. So you're seeing that there's a lot of stuff in there, and the choice not to prosecute someone does not mean that there isn't some wrongdoing. Because remember who's in charge. It could have been who was in charge prior. Then it was Trump before that. So there's a lot here. And now, Jason, we're seeing a bunch of mishmash going on. And there's a lot there. And I think you even covered it yesterday with Charles Ortel, I think, with Prince Andrew getting charged. I mean, that was in regards to all this stuff. So how is it that there's no there?
No, you're right. I was talking with Patrick Reveron about it, but offline I spoke with Charles, and he made the point of saying, because I was like, wait a minute, has anybody in the royal family ever been arrested before? And Charles told me it was like 1690 something when they arrested King Charles, I guess the first, and chopped his head off. So it's kind of maybe more, Patrick, he's a Navy veteran and he's got a lot of great insights, but I agreed with him until I spoke to Charles. And it maybe is a bigger deal than we initially thought, because I think a lot of people see somebody like Prince Andrew get arrested and they think, oh, this is, performative or whatever. They're just doing that. And then they'll let him go and nothing will happen. But I don't know, Sal, we got to see. It could be a pretty big deal.
I think there's something there, because you have heard all for years about things, but no one wanted to. You know why they actually did this? And it isn't just to say, okay, we're just doing something to do something. The public outrage, if you continue to have outrage, you can make decisions. Remember, these people work for you. I don't care how many billions you have. You're one person that could be overthrown by millions of people. They could bum rush you, your home. If you enrage people far enough, get them to that point, that's what can happen. The power was always to the people, never to some governmental official. So them not doing anything for this long has now outraged people, and you're seeing the furor out there of it, and what they have to do something. You can't just sit on your hands and say, oh, I don't know anything. There's no there, I didn't see it. And these documents are they're pretty salacious stuff in there, Jason. I mean, this other clown, Howard Lutnik, I mean, he's a commerce secretary. He lived next door to Epstein. Now, he was never a real Republican. Jason, this guy was for Kamala Harris up until he made some reference with Trump, about Trump, and then all of a sudden he's a Trump guy overnight and he's in the administration. So these are the same mistakes Trump makes repeatedly, putting clowns around him. There's so many of them right now around him. That guy's another one. He's clearly an Epstein associate. He was lying to Congress, and I didn't know him. I stopped talking to him in 2005. Boom. There's the documents. The guy was having fundraisers. He was talking to him in 2011. He was talking to him in 2017. So, Jason, people want transparency. They've had enough. They just like, listen, why can't you just be honest?
Yeah.
Where is the transparency, Jason?
I haven't trusted Howard Lutnik for a long, long time. I don't know if you were aware of this, Sal. This just came to my attention, and this is not what formed my opinion about him. But, Howard Lutnik, first of all, we know he was Epstein's neighbor. Here's the crazy part. Epstein's house is 9 East 71st Street. Lutnik is 11 East 71st Street. So, I mean, that's
crazy.
A coincidence, but it could also be they love these coded messages. He's on the news back in 2001. That's when I first heard of him, because he was the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. Friend of mine from childhood worked for Cantor Fitzgerald, was killed in the building. And Lutnik came on TV and he was, bawling his eyes out about, the people who died. He said the average age was 33. And I don't know if I've discussed this with you expressly, but I find that the number 33 is frequently referenced. I'm not talking about numerology or gematria or magic. I'm just saying it's like a code word. Like when the NYPD uses the undercover color of the day, you don't know if somebody is just wearing royal blue or if they're an undercover. And everybody was told this morning when you go to the protest, somebody wearing a royal blue hat, royal blue shorts, whatever, they're undercover, don't arrest them. This 33, it's showing up all the time as like a steganographic coded message.
Yeah, I guess that would go back to, the closest thing I could say is I think Freemasonry uses the number 33
Exactly.
degree. It's all, but again, you would have to look into all these secret societies. There's so many of them. I know some guys like Masons that were on the job and they would laugh at this kind of stuff. They're common guys. I mean, they go to church. You're not supposed to be going to church if you're a Freemason because they believe in whatever it is. They say some of this stuff is satanic. I don't know if it's true or not. I just know the number 33 has been referenced with a lot of these, we'll call them the clown outfit, right? That's what they all are. They believe in some nonsense. I don't even know if it's real or not. And it's funny that the address is also 9 and then 11.
Right.
911. 911, 911. You make whatever reference you want. The two
Right.
people, they live next to each other. But the bottom line was that they were both neighbors. They were neighbors. They knew each other. And he was telling people, I don't know him. I stopped talking to him. He was well aware of his convictions. He was well aware of what Jeffrey Epstein represented, and he still associated with him and was doing things. And he told the people, no, I didn't do any of this. I didn't know him. I didn't talk to him after 2005. That, to me, shows that if he's willing to not be transparent about that, what else is he not being transparent about? And by the way, Jason, he's the one that's been pushing the tariffs all over the place on Trump, which now today the Supreme Court struck down. You cannot use some whatever emergency act it was. You actually need Congress to get behind you. And I don't understand why, when he first came back into office, he wouldn't sit down all the people in Congress, including many of the Republicans, you are in a majority, to say, look, I'm putting these tariffs. We need to vote on this. Because it's Congress that says yes or no. If they say yes or no, if they approve, then your tariffs are good for life. You can't circumvent this whole thing. And I don't know why they went ahead and did that, but that tells you there's trouble in paradise. The party, they're not all cozy with each other, and they don't like Trump. So,
but you know what I'm worried about now, Sal? And this is definitely a question for Charles Ortel. We don't really know what's going to happen now because there's billions and billions of dollars that they're going to have to refund this money to foreign countries. And what does that say to foreign countries about the power of the president of the United States, where it's like, pay us money, now we got to give it back to you? They're going to think we're idiots, and one hand doesn't know what the other is doing, and they might be right.
Yeah, the problem was those tariffs that he kept pushing had to go through Congress, even when it was going on. I like the idea. The idea seems, but you have to get it passed, and I knew this. They were going to throw this at him. And it was only a matter of time. And all Supreme Court is doing is looking at the letter of the law. And you can't use this act from God knows how many years ago as an emergency, because you're circumventing the fact that Congress said, come here, we'll look at this, and we're going to approve what to do and what not to do.
Well, but I think there's something in there that does talk about the president's ability to control importation. That's one of these things that's subject to, judicial interpretation. It's not so explicit. So again, we had some of the Supreme Court justices sided with Trump. Some of them didn't. And part of the problem we're facing is that the Supreme Court has become so partisan and political that it's all the government is doing is fighting, and they hate Trump. So even though everybody or the majority, voted for him and he won, they don't want to support the person who was the president. It seems like we are well past the time where everybody said, okay, this guy's the president. we're all in the same boat together. So let's support the president and hope for the next 4 years he does the best job he can do. Now it's just attack the guy you don't like nonstop until he's out of office. Try to impeach him. Try to smear him with Epstein stuff. I mean, so let's get back to the Epstein stuff. You've been digging into it. What have you discovered in the Epstein files that is going to horrify people?
Yeah. Well, number one is Steve Bannon, who has what, like 2,000 messages or, communications with Jeffrey Epstein. Finally, this week, after being barraged, has a response. He's going to release all this stuff all these years later. And he had one of his stooges, Raheem Kassam, who's, one of his main, we'll say, lackeys. He's got a couple of more around him, some that you don't like. And I'm not even going to mention, I'm not rolling in the mud with these people. But he has his little carnival circus act around him, pushing out that, he only did this because he was working. No. He's a slime ball. And in fact, everyone, and look, even the New York Times finally writing about Bannon, not in the best of ways, because he's a guy like Boris Epstein who never get articles written. Like, if they're so hated and they're MAGA and all these liberal newspapers hate him, you never really see anything on him. You might see the occasional hit piece by Raw Story or one of these little news outlets, but you never see the major ones writing about Bannon or Boris Epstein, which tells you a lot, right?
Well, when he was working for Trump, they did. I think that probably at this point they consider him, New York Times at least considers him kind of on the fringe, and they don't want to elevate him by writing about him. But
reading those files, you read that he wanted the 25th Amendment invoked. He also was not speaking fond about Trump. He was also suggesting that he was in an affair with a woman, which was written in a book by Michael Wolff, which now the closest person to Michael Wolff at that time when he wrote it, and he went to go see Epstein, was Bannon, who then there's another post that says that Steve Bannon went to Epstein's island. So,
and by the way, Sal, look, it's hard to know if these things they say are true or false. People feel like, ooh, we see the private texts and Bannon says Trump is having an affair, so it must be true. But this is exactly out of the playbook of the type of thing that social engineers do. Send a text message saying, this is happening, and then the text messages get leaked and they expose the text messages and people feel like they're looking at something private, so it must be correct. Is it possible that he just sent that to release it later and smear Trump?
I would say you would have a point, but the problem was it was written in this book by Michael Wolff, who at the time said he had a source in the Trump administration. It's Steve Bannon. He was on the Epstein's island when he went there to visit him and came up with all this stuff.
No, that's exactly what I mean. He's in there social engineering Trump in the same way that all these losers try to do to me.
Did I not tell you that the king of the social engineers was Steve Bannon?
No, you're absolutely right. You know about Gamergate, Sal? Have you ever heard about that?
I think you were telling me about that.
Yeah, Lee Stranahan used to talk about that. And I mean, that was a Steve Bannon thing where it's too bad we can't get Lee. He's really not well. But as far as I recall, what it was is there was maybe it was Minecraft or I don't know, some video game. And basically you could earn, World of Warcraft it was. So here, it says Gamergate. It's a loosely organized misogynistic online harassment campaign motivated by a right-wing backlash against feminism. I mean, this is the Wikipedia version of what it is. But
am I reading that? Developer's name, Brianna Wu and Zoe Quinn. Where are they from? Are they
China.
I thought so, because he's a Miles Guo guy. Isn't that interesting?
I mean, they were using Chinese prisoners to play these video games and earn, there's a currency in the game that you pay actual money to get, and then you can buy weapons and vehicles or whatever. I've never played the game, but that's the idea. And so they basically had Chinese prisoners playing the game, accumulating this video game currency, and then selling it to people for real money. It's quite a scheme, isn't it?
I'd tell you another scheme. A couple of weeks ago, right here, you actually pulled up this FJB cryptocurrency, which I believe crypto is a scam. I mean, it's like you own air, but somehow you own money, and then people can steal this from you. But where's the money? It's like physical property. FJB coin, which was created, two people that created this coin were Boris Epstein and Steve Bannon, and then lo and behold, they're now in a class action suit because it's a scam. And Boris Epstein is still in Trump world. I mean, he's right in the middle of everything. Todd Blanche, he put him there. He's another guy with Eric Adams and Ivo Bove and Artie Idala and Ghislaine Maxwell. And here we go. This just happened last Friday. So once we got done with our show, I was sent this and said, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" And I believe a few weeks ago we actually had this up on the screen, and lo and behold, you have a class action suit with this, Jason. I think this is another
unbelievable.
Just adding to what we were trying to tell people about Boris and Steve Bannon. Remember, Boris came up through the War Room, this show that is, and the other part, we also came to learn that if you look at Miles Guo and his indictment, and of course, Steve Bannon was an indicted co-conspirator, you are going to also learn that there's another a conservative, I guess, influence program through Miles Guo, which was run by Steve Bannon. And that's how he's gotten all this favorable coverage. And the old, I hate to pick on a guy, but let's say what it is, DC Drano posts something, and then 20 guys say the exact same thing 5 seconds later. This is part of that, we'll call it social engineer program that involves the Miles Guo-backed agenda through Steve Bannon. And that was another thing that, and he has his own army of people that try to attack me or you or anyone that, sheds light on this thing, but it's right in front of your face. And I haven't been wrong, have I, when it comes to Steve Bannon? So obviously, I'm telling you, this guy is in my opinion, he's a human piece of garbage. And it's only a matter of time now. Sooner or later, put it like this. If Trump's DOJ, which Boris Epstein somehow runs and should be himself charged with or investigated, if it doesn't happen now, the second Trump is gone, these people will be investigated. And if you think they're slick and say, "Oh, we'll pardon them," the states where they committed their crimes, New York being one of the main ones, you'll be investigated there because people are sick of, it's been like, how many years now? 2015, I'd say, was Trump first. It's now 11 years of this crap. And by the time Trump is out, it's going to be about 13 years that we've seen this entire act. And although Trump started with, the man and everything he's doing, the people he's let in around him are the ones that have killed everything underneath his feet and the forest around him. And if you don't do anything to correct it, personally, the forest will then swallow you at the very end, which is what's happened here. That's what it seems.
You're absolutely right. I mean, at a certain point, Trump's got to take responsibility for some of these idiots. Now, we should also mention that it's not just Roger Stone who talks about how Bannon committed perjury during the criminal trial. This is Jonathan Turley. I don't know why Trump wouldn't appoint somebody like Turley to be the attorney general, because he was a Democrat. So how could they not approve of him in the Senate? This actually, maybe Turley doesn't want to do it, but he would be a good attorney general. He's a smart guy, and why don't they get Turley in there?
That would actually be a better pick than having who you have now. Who Pam Bondi is, look, she's going to be facing, you lose Congress, she's going to probably get impeached.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be a disaster for the Trump administration when you could just get rid of her now and install someone just like Cash Patel, get rid of these people. Basically, Jason, you could tell that these people got their job through patronage. And they also, not Pam Bondi, but Cash Patel's another Steve Bannon attachment. He was go on his show. So you have this entire circle, this Bannon circle. You have to cut the cord here because it's just going to wrap around you. He's going to have 2 years left at the end of this year. And if you have Democrats in charge of Congress, it's not looking well. It's not going to look well for you. Whether they do impeach him or not, it's going to be a circus carnival act. And that's what you'll be remembered for. I told you a while back, once I saw the Eric Adams stuff, I foresaw all of this happening, and it's all coming true. And it's very unfortunate. But he put these people in and around him. And I think everyone that had a common sense or the original people that supported him were screaming not to have it. I think Cash Patel might be the only person we said, I think we thought maybe Attorney General. He ends up being in the FBI, and the guy's not an FBI guy. He's seeing it's been a complete disaster. He's flying around the world. He's got FBI guys taking his girlfriend home. I mean, none of this stuff. And maybe this happened in the past with other FBI directors. I don't know. I don't think so. I think other FBI directors have been very quiet about their travels or what they do, other than Christopher Wray, obviously, another Trump appointment. So Cash Patel, though, clearly unqualified for this job. He is not. I mean, he botched the whole Charlie Kirk assassination. Whether you think that one guy is the magical shooter or whatever, the way they handled that investigation showed like, okay, why are you speaking again? You're the FBI director. Don't you have people underneath you? Like, you can't teach common sense. But when you never did the job, that's what's going to happen. And I think he's being snake bit by his own appointments. That's what's happening, Jason. It's happening all over again, just like the first term.
You're right, it is. So what about the return of Dan Bongino? We've only got a couple of minutes before we head over to the sponsor-exclusive segment. I should mention that people should be subscribing to your new Substack page, thesalgreco.substack.com. You've been writing a lot of articles for that. How has Substack been going for you, Sal?
I've been getting a few subscribers. I'm up to like almost 30 now. And I started just when we started our show. The show, obviously, you have to pay to watch. I put a couple of articles in the beginning that you'd have to be a paid subscriber, but I pretty much put things up there that anyone could read. I will, from time to time, maybe write something that is just for paid subscribers, but essentially, it's growing. So is my personal show, the Sal Greco Show. Also, if you can, you should go to salgreco.com/support and support me, because I'm fighting the police department, not once, but twice. I have to get a press pass, which Jason can tell you is not easy. That's another thing they're fighting me on. And I have 2 major lawsuits on them. I wrote about it as well. You can check that out, but salgreco.com/support for that. And Substack, you know, if you do subscribe, also, I do write articles that it's got the stuff that's in the news, the Bannon stuff, the lawsuit, things I report on NYPD. So there's a lot there. So I would really appreciate it. And, you know, I'm growing in far as my journalistic side of things, Jason. I started as a police officer, and now look where I ended up, you know?
It's like Rodney Dangerfield. He started out as a baby, and now he's a baby photographer.
Yeah.
But Sal, what about the return of, Dunce Bongino?
It's funny you mentioned that, Jason. He had Cash Patel on. It was a total broski fest, and they just avoided the elephant in the room, which was the Epstein stuff. He just doesn't. 2 guys that made a killing on talking about Epstein now act like it doesn't even exist, right? His show started with a big number and has just tanked. Just like I said, I told you, people just want to see what he's going to say, and when they realize, oh, it's this guy, and, you know, he's not even has no validity to things and no integrity. That's what's happening. And it's funny, he returned to Fox News, who's the people that made him relevant to begin with, which means he's shopping around. He's looking to make some extra money because maybe he wasn't making money in the federal government. That's what happens when you take a federal government job. So, and he basically destroyed and tanked his credibility. So, how far does his show go, Jason? You can see that they actually put up a graphic recently, and his show is tanked since he first started it again.
Yeah, I saw that. Somebody has this daily total views as a percentage since relaunch. He's down 24% of what he started with.
I expect that to keep dropping because you can't be someone who's railing against the very government that you were a part of and did absolutely nothing.
Right.
And on top of it, how do you made a killing with the Epstein file stuff, and then you were there and said there's no there there. Now people getting arrested in other countries, and you don't even want to discuss it because why? You made a total jackass out of yourself. You were unqualified for that position. You were a former Secret Service guy. Maybe you could run Secret Service, and you were a police officer for 2 seconds, and nobody knows what you even did in the NYPD. I don't think anyone can remember him as a cop. So, I guess you present yourself like this big bully, big tough guy cop, and in the end, more like a little worm.
Yeah,
that's the best way
he
to
could
describe
rebrand to the No There There podcast. But Sal, we're going to continue the conversation right now. We're going to make our way over to the sponsor exclusive segment. Please join us there, everybody, on thesalgreco.substack.com or crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com. You can also get it on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Stay with us, everybody.